It's time for another Boortzcast.
All right, my friends, today is the 17th day of April, and oddly enough, tomorrow, the 18th day, is tax day. Well, I guess that's because tax day fell on Saturday, and it was the Easter holiday, and people are taking 3-day weekends, so we all know how generous the IRS is all the time, right? So they pushed tax day off to today. So this particular Boortzcast is all about taxes. It's not going to be dull. After all, together with Georgia Congressman John Linder, I wrote a book called the FAIRtax book, which debuted #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. So I can take the subject of taxes, and I can make it interesting to you, and I can have you marching in the streets by the end of this. I don't have any notes. No notes in front of me. This is not written out. This is all extemporaneous. Why don't we get started? First of all, let's get to one basic truth, one basic reality. All wealth in America is held by individuals. Now, some people can say all wealth is held by individuals or the church. That's a fine little distinction, and it has some validity. But for the purposes of discussions on taxes, the income tax and the fair tax, all wealth is held by individuals. Therefore, all taxes are paid by individuals, because taxes constitute the seizure of wealth by the government. In this case, we're talking about the federal government. And if wealth is going to be seized, I mean, let's face it, not much of the money the federal government spends is donated. So if wealth is going to be seized, it's going to be taken from individuals. And that includes business taxes. And that includes corporate taxes. Yeah? Our tax structure has personal income taxes and corporate income taxes. That is a load of hooey. Corporate income taxes are a fraud. They are a subterfuge. Corporate income taxes exist because it is, in the minds of government and politicians, a clever way to hide from individuals the true nature of their tax burden. Corporations do not pay taxes. Period. End of story. They collect taxes and pass those taxes off to the government. And basically, there are 3 places, 3 collection points for corporations to collect the taxes they pass off to the government. One of them is consumers, the people who purchase, who consume the corporation's products or services. Number 2 is the owners of the corporation, in other words, the shareholders. The corporation merely takes the taxes out of the money that is to be distributed to the owners, to the shareholders, and instead pays that money to the federal government. And number 3, the corporation will get the money it pays in taxes from the employees of that incorporation. And this is done by several different ways. The denial of pay increases. No, we can't pay you more because we have to pay more taxes. Pay cuts. We're going to have to take money out of your paycheck because our tax bill has just gone up, or by simply refusing to hire more employees because the corporate's tax burden is simply too high and there's not enough money left over to hire new people. So those people sort of by default are helping to pay that corporation's taxes. So there's one fact you need to know right there. Businesses, corporations don't pay taxes. They collect them and pass them on to the government. Again, all wealth is held by individuals. All taxes are taxes on wealth. Individuals pay all taxes. But the way individuals pay taxes now is horribly convoluted with 76,000 pages of tax rules and regulations. The net effect of this being that you really just don't have any idea how much you're paying, do you? Now, Here is something that politicians love. I mean, all politicians. I don't care how much they preach the mantra of tax reform. Here is a fact that makes them smile. As we approach tax day, today, go ask some of your coworkers or what have you, how much did you have to pay in taxes this year? And more often than not, you're going to get the answer, I didn't have to pay anything. I'm getting some back. Now, think about that for a moment, folks. Just let that answer swirl around in your brain for a minute. I didn't have to pay anything. I'm getting some back. The question wasn't, what extra did you have to pay right now after they withheld taxes from your paycheck all year long? No, the question was, how much did you pay in taxes for last year? I didn't have to pay anything. I'm getting some back. The reality is, most people do not have a clue how much in income taxes they paid for tax year 2016. They couldn't hit it within 20% of what the actual figure was. And politicians love this because the less aware the people are of just how much they're paying in income taxes, the safer the politicians who manipulate the tax code and take this money for their various vote buying schemes, the safer they are. Now, I'm going to tell you about the FAIRtax in a minute, but just know this. Why isn't the FAIRtax a huge part of the tax reform discussion going on in Washington right now? Why not? Why aren't you hearing about the FAIRtax? The bill is in the Congress. It's there. It's been there for years. Introduced and reintroduced into every session of Congress in the Senate and in the House. But to understand why it is not embraced and eagerly pushed by congressmen and senators, you have to understand this. And you will see why I say this when I start to explain the FAIRtax to you. The FAIRtax, if enacted, would be the most massive transfer of power from government to the people in the history of the United States of America. That's not hyperbole. That is the truth. It would be the most massive transfer of power to the people in our history. Now, I ask you, do you think these congressmen and these senators are ready to freely allow a massive transfer of power from them to the people? Do you think they're tired of the power they have? Are they tired of wielding power? Are they tired of being so important? Gee, I have too much power up here. I just have too much power as a senator. I have just too much power as a member of the House of Representatives. It is time for me to hand some of this power back to the people, and I know the best way for me to do that is to get this FAIRtax enacted. Hell no, these people are not going to talk and think that way. Some of them, maybe. For the most part, They hold on to their power like a baby holds on to a pacifier. A dog to a bone. Nancy Pelosi to ugly. Donald Trump to his tax returns. And that hair, my God, that hair. There's all sorts of ways our current tax code can be used by politicians to wield power. Under Barack Obama, Lois Lerner at the IRS, let's punish those conservatives out there. They're not in favor of our policies, so let's go after them and try to deny them their tax-exempt status and damage them with our tax code. Or, hey, I want to get elected, or I want to get reelected. And I know that there are a lot of people out there who are potential voters that are really ticked off because some people have a lot more success, a lot more income, a lot more money than they do. So I'll use the tax code to punish those people that have a lot in order to gain the support of those people that don't have so much. There's a business in my district that needs help competing with districts or other businesses in other districts. So we're going to pass some special tax breaks for the business in my district to give them advantages over others. There's as many ways to take advantage of the tax code to wield power. personal political power as there are different congressmen and senators. So I'm going to start to explain the FAIRtax to you. A lot of you already know much about it anyway, but I just want you to understand. Politicians love our tax code because it gives them power, because it can be manipulated to keep them in power, because it makes government strong and powerful. And they aren't going to willingly step forward and change this. The only way our tax code gets changed, the only way the FAIRtax ever gets enacted is if the people, not the politicians, the people of this country just, by God, demand it. If they let these politicians know you like your job in Washington, you like the power, you like being an honorable congressman and honorable, well, then you had better enact this tax code. It is, the FAIRtax, a condition of your continued employment.